Hello, what's up, guys? Welcome. The doctor is in. Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Glad to have you here. We will be starting this momentarily. We will be reading a trio of Christmas stories to brighten your holiday evening. To begin, we are going to start with Beatrix Potter's The Tailor of Gloucester. Now, for those of you who are familiar with my streams, I have turned off the sound alerts as I do not wish to interrupt the reading with any. Mm, what's the word I'm looking for here? I do not wish to interrupt the reading with random sound effects that I have no control over. So I opted to turn them off for tonight. So without further ado, let us begin. As soon as I remember. The Tailor of Gloucester by Beatrix Potter. Albeit charges for a looking glass and entertain a score or two of tailors. Richard III. My dear Frida, because you are fond of fairy tales and have been ill, I have made you a story all for yourself. A new one that nobody has read before. And the queerest thing about it is that I heard it in Gloucester, Gloucestershire, and that it is true, at least about the tailor, the waistcoat, and the no more twist. Christmas, 1901. In the time of swords and periwigs and false-skirted coats with flowered lappets, when gentlemen wore ruffles and gold-laced waistcoats of paduasoy and taffeta, there lived a tailor in Gloucester. He sat in the window of a little shop in Westgate Street, cross-legged on a table, from morning till dark. All day long, while the light lasted, he sewed and snippeted, piecing out his satin and pompadour and lute-string. Stuffs had strange names, and were very expensive in the days of the Tailor of Gloucester. But although he sewed fine silk for his neighbours, he himself was very, very poor. A little old man in spectacles, with a pinched face, old crooked fingers, and a suit of threadbare clothes. He cut his coats without waste, according to his embroidered cloth. There were very small ends and snippets that lay about upon the table. "Two narrow breadths for naught, except waistcoats for mice," said the tailor. One bitter cold day near Christmas time, the tailor began to make a coat of cherry-colored corded silk embroidered with pansies and roses, and a cream-colored satin waistcoat, trimmed with gauze and green worsted chenille, for the mayor of Gloucester. The tailor worked, and he talked to himself. He measured the silk and turned it round and round, and trimmed it into shape with his shears. The table was all littered with cherry-coloured snippets. "No breadth at all, and cut on the cross. It is no breadth at all. Tippets for mice and ribbons for mobs. For mice!" said the tailor of Gloucester. When the snowflakes came down against the small leaded window panes and shut out the light, the tailor had done his day's work. All the silk and satin lay cut out upon the table. There were 12 pieces for the coat, and 4 pieces for the waistcoat. And there were pocket flaps and cuffs, and buttons all in order. For the lining of the coat there was fine yellow taffeta, and for the buttonholes of the waistcoat there was cherry-coloured twist. And everything was ready to sew together in the morning, all measured and sufficient, except that there was wanting just one single skein of cherry-coloured twisted silk. The tailor came out of his shop at dark, for he did not sleep there at nights. He fastened the window and locked the door, and took away the key. No one lived there at night but little brown mice, and they run in and out without any keys. Behind the wooden wainscots of all the old houses in Gloucester, there are little mouse staircases and secret trapdoors, and the mice run from house to house through those long, narrow passages. They can run all over the town without going into the streets. But the tailor came out of his shop and shuffled home through the snow. He lived quite nearby in College Court, next the doorway to College Green, and although it was not a big house, the tailor was so poor he only rented the kitchen. He lived alone with his cat. It was called Simpkin. Now all day long, while the tailor was out at work, Simpkin kept house by himself, and he also was fond of the mice, though he gave them no satin for coats. "Meow," said the cat when the tailor opened the door. "Meow." The tailor replied, "Simpkin, we shall make our fortune, but I am worn to a ravelling. Take this groat, which is our last fourpence, and Simpkin buy a china pipkin, buy a penneth of bread, a penneth of milk, and a penneth of sausages. Oh, and Simpkin, with the last penny of our fourpence, buy me one penneth of cherry-coloured silk. But do not lose the last penny of the fourpence, Simpkin, or I am undone and worn to a thread paper, for I have no more twist." Then Simpkin again said "Meow," and took the groat and the pipkin, and went out into the dark. The tailor was very tired and beginning to be ill. He sat down by the hearth and talked to himself about that wonderful coat. "I shall make my fortune to be cut bias. The mayor of Gloucester is to be married on Christmas Day in the morning, and he hath ordered a coat and an embroidered waistcoat to be lined with yellow taffeta, and the taffeta sufficeth. There is no more left over in snippets than will serve to make tippets for mice." Then the tailor started, for suddenly, interrupting him from the dresser at the other side of the kitchen, came a number of little noises. Tip tap, tip tap, tip tap, tip. "Ah, what can that be?" said the tailor of Gloucester, jumping up from his chair. The dresser was covered with crockery and pipkins, willow-patterned plates, and teacups and mugs. The tailor crossed the kitchen and stood quite still beside the dresser, listening and peering through his spectacles. Again from under a teacup came those funny little noises. Tip tap, tip tap, tip tap, tip. "This is very peculiar," said the tailor of Gloucester, and he lifted up the teacup, which was upside down. Out stepped a little live lady mouse and made a curtsy to the tailor. Then she hopped away, down off the dresser and under the wainscot. The tailor sat down again by the fire, warming his poor cold hands and mumbling to himself. "The waistcoat is cut out from peach-coloured satin, tambour stitch and rosebuds, and beautiful floss silk. Was I wise to entrust my last fourpence to Simpkin? 1 and 20 buttonholes of cherry-coloured twist." But all at once from the dresser there came other little noises. Tip tap, tip tap, tip tap, tip. "This is passing extraordinary," said the tailor of Gloucester, and turned over another teacup which was upside down. Out stepped a little gentleman mouse and made a bow to the tailor. And then from all over the dresser came a chorus of little tappings, all sounding together and answering one another like watch beetles in an old worm-eaten window shutter. Tip tap, tip tap, tip tap, tip. And out from under teacups and from under bowls and basins stepped out other and more little mice who hopped away down off the dresser and under the wainscot. The tailor sat down close over the fire, lamenting. 1 and 20 buttonholes of cherry-coloured silk, to be finished by noon of Saturday, and this is Tuesday evening. Was it right to let loose those mice, undoubtedly the property of Simpkin? Alack, I am undone, for I have no more twist." The little mice came out again and listened to the tailor. They took notice of the pattern of that wonderful coat. They whispered to one another about the taffeta lining and about the little mouse tippets. And then all at once they all ran away together down the passage from behind the wainscot, squeaking and calling to one another as they ran from house to house, and not one mouse was left in the tailor's kitchen when Simpkin came back with a pipkin of milk. Simpkin opened the door and bounced in with an angry "Meow," like a cat that is vexed, for he hated the snow, and there was snow in his ears and snow in his collar at the back of his neck. He put down the loaf and the sausages upon the dresser and sniffed. "Simpkin," said the tailor, "where is my twist?" But Simpkin set down the pipkin of milk upon the dresser and looked suspiciously at the teacups. He wanted his supper of little fat mouse. Water sips. "Simpkin," said the tailor, "where is my twist?" But Simpkin hid a little parcel privately in the teapot and spit and growled at the tailor. And if Simpkin had been able to talk, he would have asked, "Where is my mouse?" "Alack, I am undone," said the tailor of Gloucester, and went sadly to bed. All that night long, Simpkin hunted and searched through the kitchen, peeping into the cupboards and under the wainscot and into the teapot where he had hidden that twist, but still he never found a mouse. Whenever the tailor muttered and talked in his sleep, Simpkin said, "Meow, meow," and made strange, horrid noises as cats do at night. For the poor old tailor was very ill with a fever, tossing and turning in his four-post bed, and still in his dreams he mumbled, "No more twist, no more twist." All that day he was ill, and the next day, and the next, and what should become of the cherry-coloured coat? In the tailor's shop in Westgate Street, the embroidered silk and satin lay cut out upon the table, 1 and 20 buttonholes, and who should come to sew them when the window was barred and the door was fast locked? But that does not hinder the little brown mice. They run in and out without any keys through all the old houses in Gloucester. Out of doors, the market folks went trudging through the snow to buy their geese and turkeys, and to bake their Christmas pies. But there would be no Christmas dinner for Simpkin and the poor old tailor of Gloucester. The tailor lay ill for 3 days and 3 nights, and then it was Christmas Eve, and very late at night. The moon climbed up over the roofs and chimneys, and looked down over the gateway into College Court. There were no lights in the windows, nor any sound in the houses. All the city of Gloucester was fast asleep under the snow. And still Simpkin wanted his mice, and he mewed as he stood beside the four-post bed. But it is in the old story that all the beasts can talk, in the night between Christmas and Christmas Day, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in the morning, though there are very few folk that can hear them or know what it is that they say. When the cathedral clock struck 12, there was an answer, like an echo of the chimes, and Simpkin heard it, and came out of the tailor's door, and wandered about in the snow. From all the roofs and gables and old wooden houses in Gloucester came 1,000 merry voices, singing the old Christmas rhymes, all the old songs that I ever heard of, and some that I don't know, like Whittington's bells. First and loudest the cocks cried out, "Dame, get up and bake your pies!" "Oh, dilly, dilly, dilly," sighed Simpkin. And now in a garret there were lights and sounds of dancing, and cats came over the way. "Hey, diddle, diddle, the cat and the fiddle, all the cats in Gloucester except me," said Simpkin. Under the wooden eaves the starlings and the sparrows sang of Christmas pies. The jackdaws woke up in the cathedral tower, and although it was the middle of the night, the throstles and the robins sang. The air was quite full of little twittering tunes. But it was all rather provoking to poor hungry Simpkin. Particularly, he was vexed with some little shrill voices from behind a wooden lattice. I think that they were bats, because they always have very small voices, especially in a black frost, when they talk in their sleep, like the tailor of Gloucester. They said something mysterious that sounded like, "Buzz, quoth the blue fly, hum, quoth the bee. Buzz and hum, they cry, and so do we." And Simpkin went away, shaking his ears as if he had a bee in his bonnet. From the tailor's shop in Westgate came a glow of light, and when Simpkin crept up to in at the window, it was full of candles. There was a snippeting of scissors and snappeting of thread, and little mouse voices sang loudly and gaily. 4 and 20 tailors went to catch a snail. The best man amongst them durst not touch a tail. She put out her horns like a little Kylo cow. Run, tailors, run, or she'll have you all in now. Then, without a pause, the little mouse voices went on again.
Sieve my lady's oatmeal, grind my lady's flour, put it in a chestnut, let it stand an hour.
Meow, meow, interrupted Simpkin, and he scratched at the door. But the key was under the tailor's pillow. He could not get in. The little mice only laughed and tried another tune.
Three little mice sat down to spin. Pussy passed by and she peeped in. What are you at, my fine little men? Making coats for gentlemen. Shall I come in and cut off your threads? Oh no, Miss Pussy, you'd bite off our heads.
Meow, meow, cried Simpkin.
Hey diddle dinkety,
answered the little mice.
Hey diddle dinkety, poppety pet. The merchants of London, they wear scarlet, silk in the collar and gold in the hem, so merrily march the merchant men.
They clicked their thimbles to mark the time, but none of the songs pleased Simpkin. He sniffed and mewed at the door of the shop.
And then I bought a pipkin and a popkin, a slipkin and a slopkin, all for 1 farthing, and upon the kitchen dresser,
added the rude little mice. Meow! Scratch, scratch, scuffled Simpkin on the window sill. While the little mice inside sprang to their feet, and all began to shout at once in little twittering voices,
No more twist, no more twist.
And they barred up the window shutters and shut out Simpkin. But still through the nicks in the shutters he could hear the click of thimbles, and little mouse voices singing,
No more twist, no more twist.
Simpkin came away from the shop and went home, considering in his mind. He found the poor old tailor without fever sleeping peacefully. Then Simpkin went on tiptoe and took a little parcel of milk out of the teapot and looked at it in the moonlight, and he felt quite ashamed of his badness compared with those good little mice. When the tailor awoke in the morning, the first thing which he saw upon the patchwork quilt was a skein of cherry-colored twisted silk, and beside his bed stood the repentant Simpkin.
Alack, I am worn to a ravelling, said the tailor of Gloucester, but I have my twist.
The sun was shining on the snow when the tailor got up and dressed, and came out into the street with Simpkin running before him. The starlings whistled on the chimney stacks, and the throstles and robins sang, but they sang their own little noises, not the words they had sung in the night.
Alack, said the tailor, I have my twist, but no more strength, nor time, than will serve to make me one single buttonhole. For this is Christmas Day in the morning. The mayor of Gloucester shall be married by noon, and where is his cherry-coloured coat?
He unlocked the door of the little shop in Westgate Street, and Simpkin ran in, like a cat that expects something. But there was no one there, not even one little brown mouse. The boards were swept clean, the little ends of thread and the little silk snippets were all tidied away and gone from off the floor. But upon the table, oh joy! The tailor gave a shout. There, where he had left plain cuttings of silk, there lay the most beautifulest coat and embroidered satin waistcoat that ever were worn by a mayor of Gloucester. There were roses and pansies upon the facings of the coat, and the waistcoat was worked with poppies and cornflowers. Everything was finished except just one single cherry-colored buttonhole, and where that buttonhole was wanting, there was pinned a scrap of paper with these words in little teeny-weeny writing, No more twist. And from then began the luck of the tailor of Gloucester. He grew quite stout, and he grew quite rich. He made the most wonderful waistcoats for all the rich merchants of Gloucester, and for all the fine gentlemen of the country round. Never were seen such ruffles or such embroidered cuffs and lappets, but his buttonholes were the greatest triumph of it all. The stitches of those buttonholes were so neat, so neat! I wonder how they could be stitched by an old man in spectacles with crooked old fingers and a tailor's thimble. The stitches of those buttonholes were so small, they looked as if they had been made by little mice. The end. And that concludes The Tailor of Gloucester. Thank you all so much for joining. I see Dr. Spower Patch 9 is lurking. I thank you so much, Reeve, for resubscribing. 17 months. Wow. Thank you very much.
And I see Rosalina Hime has just followed, so thank you for following. Appreciate you. I will be. I apparently neglected to turn on the background music, so let me fix that. Oh, and thank you for redeeming first, Ed Fan. Let's see if this works. Of course it does. All right, let's try again. My apologies. It seems as though the background music is wanting to be. Oh, that's probably why. There we go. There goes the background music. The next story we shall be reading from is A Visit from St. Nicholas, also known as The Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a lustre of midday to objects below, when what, to my wondering eye, should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name.
Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Dunder and Blitzen! To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all!
As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow, quite the accomplishment when you consider his clothes were tarnished with ashes and soot at the time. Nevertheless, the stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke had encircled his head like a wreath. Maybe that's where the soot came from. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight,
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
And thus concludes A Visit from St. Nicholas. Ebooks were provided by Gutenberg.org. You can find plenty of public domain ebooks at that website there. Great source for Sherlock Holmes, by the way. All right, I am going to take a brief break here, and then I will be back, and I will be beginning the final Christmas tale of the evening. I will be running some ads while I'm gone. If you are subscribed, you will not see them. If you are if you are not subscribed, you will see them. So, one moment. And we are back. We are about to begin the final Christmas story of the evening, which I will be starting momentarily. Let me remove the Deck the Halls credits as that is no longer playing. I'll be including a link to the materials that I'm using now as requested by the company that provided them to me. Let me quick hydrate as I will not have an opportunity to do so during this next segment. Oh, one thing I must do right now before I forget. Turn on Do Not Disturb mode so I don't have any background noise from my PC. And now, without further ado, let us begin.
For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest upon his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or of peace on the throne of David, and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and righteousness from then on and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this. God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee, to a virgin named Mary. She was engaged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of King David. Gabriel appeared to her and said, "Greetings, favored one, the Lord is with you." Confused and disturbed, Mary tried to think what the angel could mean. "Don't be frightened, Mary," the angel told her. "God has chosen to bless you. You will become pregnant and have a son, and you are to name him Jesus. He will be very great and will be called the Son of the Most High." But Mary asked the angel, "How can I have a baby? I'm a virgin." The angel replied, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you. The power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the baby born to you will be holy, and he will be called the Son of God." While Mary was still a virgin, she became pregnant by the Holy Spirit, and Joseph, her fiancé, being a just man, decided to break the engagement quietly so as not to disgrace her publicly. As he considered this, he fell asleep, and the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. "Joseph, son of David," the angel said, "don't be afraid to go ahead with your marriage to Mary, for the child in her has been conceived by the Holy Spirit. And she will have a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." All of this happened to fulfill the Lord's message through his prophet. "Behold, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son. He will be called Emmanuel," meaning God with us. This prophecy from Isaiah 7:14 was given 700 years before Jesus was born. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him. He brought Mary home to be his wife, but she remained a virgin until her son was born. And at that time, the Roman Emperor Augustus decreed that a census should be taken throughout the Roman Empire. All returned to their own towns to register for the census. And because Joseph was a descendant of King David, he had to go to Bethlehem in Judea, David's ancient home. He traveled from the village of Nazareth in Galilee and took with him Mary, his wife, who was great with child. And while they were there, the time came for her baby to be born. She gave birth to her first child, a son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger. That night there were shepherds in the fields outside the village guarding their flocks of sheep. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord appeared among them, and the radiance of the Lord's glory surrounded them. They were terribly frightened, but the angel reassured them. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I bring you good news of great joy for everyone. A Savior, yea, the Messiah, the Lord has been born tonight in Bethlehem, the city of David. And this is how you will recognize him. You will find a baby lying in a manger wrapped in swaddling clothes." And suddenly the angel was joined by a vast host from heaven, the armies of heaven, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." The angels left, and the shepherds said to each other, "Come, let us go to Bethlehem and see this wonderful thing that happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they ran to the village, and they found Mary and Joseph, and there was the baby lying in the manger. The shepherds told everyone what had happened and what the angel had said to them about this child. All who heard their story were astonished, but Mary kept these things in her heart. The shepherds went back to their fields and flocks, glorifying and praising God. Jesus was born in the town of Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod, and at the same time came wise men from the east to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We have seen his star that arose and have come to worship him." Herod was deeply disturbed by their question, as was all of Jerusalem. He called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law. "Where do the prophets say the Messiah will be born?" he asked.
"In Bethlehem," they said, "for this is what the prophet wrote. O Bethlehem of Judea, you are not just a lowly village of Judah, for a ruler will come to you who will be the shepherd for my people Israel."
This prophecy is found in Micah 5 and verse 2, and 2 Samuel chapter 5 and verse 2. Both were written 700 years before Jesus was born. So Herod sent a message to the wise men asking them to come to see him. At this meeting, he learned the exact time when they first saw the star. And then he told them, "Go to Bethlehem, search diligently for the child, and when you find him, come and tell me, that I may go and worship him too." After this meeting, the wise men went on their way, and once again the star appeared to them to guide them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house where the child and his mother were, and they fell down and they worshipped him. And they opened their treasure chests and they gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But when it was time to leave, they went another way because God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. After the wise men were gone, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up, flee to Egypt with the child and his mother," the angel said. "Stay there until I tell you to return, because Herod will try and kill the child." That very night, Joseph left for Egypt with the child and Mary, his mother, and they stayed there until Herod's death. This fulfilled what the Lord had spoken through the prophet, "Out of Egypt have I called my son." Herod was furious. When he learned the wise men had outwitted him, he sent soldiers to kill all the baby boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, because the wise men had told him that the star had first appeared to them about 2 years before. Then later, when Herod died, God's angel appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt. "Get up, take the child and his mother, and return to Israel. All those who wish to murder the child are dead." So Joseph obeyed. He arose and he took the child and his mother, and he re-entered Israel. When he heard, though, that Herod's son had taken over as king in Judea, he was afraid to go there. But then Joseph was directed in a dream to go to the hills of Galilee. On arriving, he settled in the village of Nazareth, fulfilling the words of the prophets, "He shall be called a Nazarene." For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And this is the story of Christmas.